Hey, welcome to another episode of After the Buzzer Sports Podcast. I'm Lee Jones, your host. Hey, this is Chris Sawyer, the co-host. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, Lee, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. How's Regent University in Virginia Beach treating you, man?
I'll tell you what, everything's good. Moving up, hopefully, to Division III here. We're doing a lot of stuff going on down here in Virginia Beach right now. It's freezing
All
too,
right.
so
Yeah, it's freezing every place, man. We still got this ice and snow on the ground, man. But hey, we're going to make it happen. Today, we got some of the hottest topics in the world of sports today. We're going to bang this out. We're going to talk about Mike McCarthy returning to the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to jump into the NFL Divisional Playoffs. Got a question for you about Jim Harbaugh as far as wanting players to college players to unionize. Want to talk about this exit of Alabama players to the transfer portal, and then just the transfer portal and NIL in general. What should college, the NCAA, do about that? So let's jump right into it, Chris. This week, big decision by Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy returning to the Cowboys. What are your thoughts about it, Chris? Where do you think the team goes with that decision? How does it affect Dak Prescott? All of the good things as far as all Cowboys. What are your thoughts about McCarthy coming back?
yeah, Lee, I had to look at this at all angles because after Sunday, the first thing you're saying, the emotional side of me is saying, get rid of them, get them all gone, buy Dan Quinn, everybody gone. Then I take a step back, but then as I thought about it, we win 12 games, past 3 years, but we continue to just lay an egg in the playoffs. I know it's hard to make a change, and then Belichick's out there, but one of the things that, Lee, I started to think about, it's almost like with Jerry there, this is just my opinion. It's almost like we're a marketing company that plays football on the side. I mean, our brand is huge. People love to hate us and we love to love us. But I honestly was a little surprised that he was coming back. I thought Jerry, after what he said to the team in the Monday meeting about this is unacceptable, we're here to win. Now, does it help Dak? Yeah, it does. I mean, a lot of the players have his back. Dak even came out publicly, said, if you're going to blame him, you're going to blame me. But I was surprised. I thought Jerry might Jerry's getting older. He might make one more change. But then you had Belichick. Looks like, the Falcons are really focusing in on him. I just am very worried that we're just going to be mediocre every year. And it looks like Quinn's coming back as well. I don't know. I'm still torn with it, to be honest with you. I mean, I know once we get into training camp, we'll be excited and ready to go. But right now, it's just I'm still trying to get over the sting of Sunday. And yeah. I blame a lot of that on the coaching staff not getting our team was not ready to play. I hadn't seen them like that since we played the Cardinals, I think. It was crazy.
Yeah, just to unpack a lot of what you said, Chris, first and foremost, we all know that coaching played a tremendous part in the Cowboys' loss on Sunday. I mean, you have to look at the preparation going into the game, the lack of adjustments at halftime, and then there's the total unpreparedness on the field of the players. We hadn't seen that all year, and that just tells me that the preparation and what Dallas did pre-game, before the game, the entire week was off. But to get to Jerry and the decision, Jerry Jones is 81, 82 years old, or whatever he is at this point, and his mentality and the way he views things is really not going to change. I wanted to change because I don't think Dallas, the preparation was an issue, but the physicalness of the team is an issue, and the mentality of the team, is an issue. But in bringing him back, what do you have? You have Jerry Jones being able to do his press conferences still, right? Being able to interact with the players the way he's always wanted to interact since Jimmy Johnson left. And this is who Jerry is. And you're not going to change an 81, 82-year-old man in the way he thinks when he owns a team and he's a multi-billionaire. So those are the reasons that I think Jerry brought him back. So that he can continue. You bring in a Belichick, you're going to have to change the way your approach is to the players, to how you talk about the team, to how you interact with the media. And I don't think Jerry really wanted to do that at this point. Now, the whole point you made about Dak Prescott is very true. I mean, this was Dak Prescott's best season as a pro. And it coincided with Mike McCarthy and the way he coached Dak and the way that he called plays and all of that. But there's a couple of things that Mike McCarthy has to change. Simplistic offense. Yeah, you have talent on Dallas's team, but the way he called plays, it seemed like Green Bay knew everything that Dallas was going to do. So the ability to diversify, give me some motion, give me some early quick passes, give me some look at how the Rams use Puka Nakoya and and move him around and run after the catch and how they scheme him open. We need more of that in the offense because the receivers just weren't getting open last Sunday. So I need that diversity, but also he needs to take hold of the defense because that defensive plan that I saw Sunday didn't work. And you're the head coach, and that responsibility falls on you. And if Jerry is saying that Dan Quinn is the NFL, the defensive coach, and McCarthy is the offensive coach, that has to change as well because that game plan didn't work. So overall, hey, you deal with what the hand that you're dealt. And the Cowboys are going to be back with Mike McCarthy. He's won 36 games over the last 3 years. That's the most games in the NFL, second most, behind Kansas City at 37. So, the bottom line is they win. They just, the attention to detail, the focus, and the physicality needs to change over this offseason, and we'll see what they do in the offseason and the draft. The one thing I would say is sign some free agents, Chris.
Yeah.
Sign some free agents this offseason. Get bigger on your offensive line. Get some bigger linebackers that can step up, take on some of these huge lines and make tackles. I think the philosophy on defense, even if Dan Quinn is there, has to change. And again, all of that falls on the head coach. And so McCarthy has to be involved more as the CEO of the entire team and not just the offensive coordinator. So I think there's a lot to be unpacked with Dallas going into the offseason.
No, you nailed it, Lee. You and I talked this week on the phone about free agency and about the linebackers. I mean, it's absolutely a must. We got run all over on Sunday and just was very disappointing. And you're right. I think one of the things, and I know we got to move on, but one of the things that really drove me crazy is that number 2 seed fell in our lap. I mean, you think about the way things worked out from the weird call with Detroit to Philly just imploding over the last half of the season. And to win so much at home and then just get steamrolled. What was it? 27-0 at one point. It was just horrible. And actually the score looks closer than that game was. We happened to score something.
Absolutely.
Just, hopefully, hopefully they can get it together. And hopefully you're right. McCarthy, I would love to know what was said in that meeting. And let's see what he does.
Yeah. Last point I'll make, Chris, think about all the talking from the players that was going on prior to the game. They almost thought it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to win 2 games and be in the NFC Championship in San Francisco. And you have to tighten that up. Quit talking so much and focus a little bit more and game plan better. That's one of the other big things I take away from the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy as the leader of the team. Micah's talking. Dak's talking. Everybody is talking instead of focusing on that. Jimmy Johnson, that you would have never heard that kind of talk from the Cowboys under Jimmy Johnson, under Bill Parcells, But so you would not have heard that. And that, again, all goes back to the head coach. So McCarthy has a lot of self-reflection that he has to do as a coach of the Cowboys, and we'll see what he does. There's no doubt that Mike McCarthy offensively, he has a game plan. He's won a Super Bowl, so we have to give him his just due. But as a head coach, it's more than just coordinating the offense. You have to coordinate the team, and so more to come on the Cowboys in the future. Chris, the divisional playoff matchups are today. We have 4 games. We have 2 big games today. I want to dive into those divisional playoff games real quick. The first game I want to talk to you about is this Baltimore-Houston game. Man, that's a big time game today. You know, Lamar Jackson, the front runner for MVP, and then we have C.J. Stroud, who definitely should be Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Rookie of the Year. So, Chris, how do you see that game playing out today? Who do you think is the favorite? And what do you think that game? How's it going to end? And what are the determining factors to who's going to win?
Yeah, to me, you just kind of nailed it on the head, Lee, with MVP candidate and possible Rookie of the Year. This is really the most intriguing matchup, I believe, of the weekend. The old guard versus the new guard here. It's going to be cold up in Baltimore, but C.J. Stroud really has impressed me, especially in their playoff game. Anything can happen. I do take Baltimore in this game, being at home. I think Jackson's playing so well that he'll be able to guide the offense down there. But I'll tell you what, if C.J. Stroud continues to play like he's playing, if he gets hot and they can take advantage a little bit of that Baltimore defense, you don't know. But right now, to me, Baltimore's going to win this game. And I honestly think they'll win by, minimal, maybe 14 points. I think Jackson is in control. I think he's ready to go, and he's having such a great year. And again, I think the weather may play a little bit of a factor in it as well, being that Houston plays in the dome.
Yeah, different set of circumstances than last week's game.
Yeah.
You're outside, it's cold, different environment. Baltimore's cold weather all this week, and Houston being a dome team, that's an adjustment. I think the key for me is can C.J. Stroud have enough time to really get the ball down the field against a Baltimore defense that is second in the NFL with quarterback pressures, ironically behind the Cowboys. But they're going to get after C.J. Stroud, and will he have enough time to drop back and get the ball out of his hand? I've been very impressed with Stroud and the way he operates in the pocket, his poise and his composure in the pocket. But Baltimore presents a different problem because they come at you, they can rush up the middle with their tackles, and by them having such big tackles on the inside, there's going to be a push from the middle and then also from the outside. Can he take advantage of Marlon Humphreys being out of the secondary? And then the last key for me is, can the Texans run the football against Baltimore? Because they're going to have to run the football to get some pressure off of C.J. Stroud. And we just talked about Dallas with the lack thereof of linebacker play and big bodies. But then when you look at what Baltimore has to offer with Roquan Smith and McQueen in there, they can stop the run. So all of those factors lead me to believe that Baltimore will win the game. I think Lamar is on another level right now with the way that he's just operating the whole offensive function and playing quarterback right now. I think he'll be able to, and they'll be able to exploit the secondary of Houston and get the ball down the field. Likely has played well in the absence of Mark Andrews up the middle of the field. So I like Baltimore in this game, but I do think C.J. Stroud will show up in the game. I like him. I think he's definitely one of the stars of the NFL to come from the quarterbacking position. But I do like Baltimore and Lamar Jackson to move on to the conference championship for this game. So looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that game because I think, you're looking at an up-and-coming Houston team. DeMeco Ryan has done a tremendous job as the coach, but I think this is Baltimore's year to make it to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, and I like what Lamar Jackson is doing and will do.
They were one of my picks at the beginning. They were one of my picks at the beginning of the year. I just felt this is going to be Jackson's year. But anyway, go ahead, Lee.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The second game, Green Bay and San Francisco. I know you hate for me to say Green Bay, and you have a bad feeling in your stomach when I say Green Bay. But what are your thoughts about Green Bay and San Francisco, the nightcap tonight? And do you give Green Bay even a chance against a team that everybody thinks is destined for Las Vegas in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, well, I look at this two ways. Again, San Francisco to me is the best team in the NFC East, and they were the one that worried me if Dallas got through. They were, in my opinion, when we were sitting here last Saturday, they were going to be the one that stood in the way of us getting there. They're playing very well. Green Bay played well against us, but honestly, I think San Francisco is going to be ready. You look at what happened to Dallas with Green Bay. Green Bay was ready to go. Dallas, we just said in our last segment, was not ready at all. That's not going to happen out in San Francisco. They're going to be ready to go. They've got a lot of film they can look at. They got to shut the run game down. They do that, I think they're going to be in good shape. But also tighten up on the receivers a little bit, which Dallas did not do. Played too much zone, and to me, I'm not biased, but I'm mad because I don't like the Packers right now. But I am picking the 49ers. But on paper, they're the better team, and talent-wise, I think they're just playing very well, and they earned that number one seed, and that's why they're playing out in California.
Yeah. I'm thoroughly impressed with Jordan Love. I mean, Jordan Love over the last 8 weeks, I think, not counting the playoffs, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception. He can make all the throws. I love how he throws off platform. His arm angles are different. Feet off the ground sometimes when he throws the football, very accurately throwing the football as well. And so I like everything about Green Bay. They got the running game going on against the Cowboys. But again, the Cowboys defense was inviting them to run the football. I mean, it was like we have these 200-pound safeties in there, and you can run all day if you want to. That's a little different than what San Francisco's going to offer in resistance to their run game. I do think Green Bay can keep this game close. I like San Francisco. I think San Francisco with McCaffrey running the football. I love, Shanahan is a master at game planning. That defense of Green Bay, where it looked great against Dallas, I don't see them putting up that same effort against Green Bay. I think against San Francisco, I think San Francisco definitely will be able to run the football. And again, San Francisco throws a lot of short and intermediate passes, and the run after the catch from Deebo Samuels and Ayuk and Kittle, you'll see that come into play. Again, Shanahan schemes his people open, and his game plan schemes people open, and that's what helped Purdy. I will say this: if the Packers can get a lead against San Francisco and put that pressure on Purdy to have to throw the ball down the field and obvious passing downs, I think that'll give Green Bay a shot to win the game. But I like San Francisco in this game by at least 13 points, and I think the 49ers win. Early, I think it'll be close, but I think San Francisco pulls away and ultimately wins by at least 13 points. So.
No, you just said it though. If Green Bay can get up early, kind of like they did on us, it might start hit San Francisco a little bit. So you're right. They got to start fast like they did last week.
Yeah, the issue is putting Purdy in obvious passing downs. If you don't make Purdy uncomfortable and he stays ahead of the sticks and they can dictate by play calling what he does, then Purdy operates a great operation for San Francisco. So if Green Bay can jump on them, get a lead, force them to have to pass, then keep them off, then Green Bay has a chance. But I don't necessarily see that happening. I think San Francisco runs the football to set up the pass. They play action, and I think San Francisco wins that game. Tomorrow, Chris, Tampa Bay and Detroit. I think that's an interesting game. What are your thoughts about the Buccaneers going into Detroit, playing in the Dome against this Detroit team that is probably everybody's darling now? People want them to hopefully make it to the NFC Championship and possibly the Super Bowl.
First off, you mentioned the Dome. Did you see the reporter the other day that asked the Tampa Bay coach, how's the weather going to affect them because it's so cold in Detroit?
I did see that.
He said, well, Yeah, he said we'll be outside for 20 seconds from the bus to the dome. So,
Right, right,
like,
right.
do your research a little. That was that little comical there. Yeah, Detroit is the darling. Again, I said it last week. I love Dan Campbell. From his introductory um, press conference to the way he is. I watched a lot of their locker room stuff after the game. He's got that team playing well. Golf is playing well. Um, they're at home too. I mean, they did not think they were going to be home. We gifted them that. I think this is big. Baker Mayfield had a nice game last week.
He did.
I was a little surprised. Yeah, I mean, he's bounced around a little bit trying to find his niche here, and yeah, I was happy for him. I think Detroit. I think that place is going to be off the charts loud. I think Detroit's going to come in. The one thing Detroit has to do is control their emotions. As we all, it's cliche, but they do because they're going to be pumped up playing at home. They need to watch out though because Tampa Bay could sneak up on them. But again, it's another one where I think they need to get out early, a little bit,
Yeah,
establish
yeah,
themselves, and put
yeah,
Tampa Bay and put Baker Mayfield on his heels. And you got to pressure him too. One of the things
yeah.
I've noticed about Mayfield over the years is when you start, like you talk about quarterbacks being comfortable. Uh, when you make him uncomfortable, he's going to make some mistakes. And I think that's a big thing on defense for Detroit. I'm picking Detroit in this game. Wouldn't it be crazy? We just talked about the Packers. If the Packers won, Detroit would host the NFC
Absolutely,
Championship against the
absolutely,
Packers. I mean, how crazy would that be? The Packers and Lions. But anyway,
absolutely.
jumping ahead of myself there. But I'm picking. I think Detroit will come in, handle business at home. I know they're excited to be there. Good run by Tampa Bay, but I think it's the Lions' year right now.
Yeah, Philadelphia pressured Baker Mayfield a lot in the game Monday night, and Baker Mayfield, if the pocket is clean, then he can throw the ball down the field. I think Detroit pressures him a lot. Hutchinson's going to get back there. I like their pass
Yeah,
rush. Getting to Baker Mayfield and putting pressure and moving him off his spot. When you move Baker Mayfield off his spot, he throws interceptions. When you make him speed up his game, he throws interceptions. And I think that's what Detroit does to Baker Mayfield and speeds him up. And I think you'll see a couple of turnovers from Baker Mayfield in this game against the Lions. Vice versa, I think Detroit will run the football against Tampa Bay. Detroit has one of the best offensive lines in football. And so I like Detroit to pound it and play action and get the ball down the field in the passing game. Laporta, I'm very, very big on Laporta as the tight end. I like, hopefully, they're deep threat Jameson Williams and St. Brown. He's a possession receiver, but he's tough as nails and he gets the ball, run after the catch with him. I like Detroit really by about 17 points. I don't think this game is going to particularly be that close, to be honest with you, with Tampa Bay. I think once you get Tampa Bay behind and you force Baker Mayfield to have to throw the ball and where you can line up and rush him, I think that's where the flaws in Baker Mayfield's game come about. So I think Detroit big, 17 points over Tampa Bay to go to the divisional round. And I think a party is going to be happening in the Motor City because they're going to make it to the NFC Championship game. The only thing that if Tampa Bay has a chance, Chris, I think, they're going to have to protect Baker Mayfield. Again, they're going to have to
yeah,
run the football against Detroit, play action. You have Mike Evans, you have Godwin out there. So you do have talented receivers on the outside for Tampa Bay, but they're definitely going to have to run the football and keep Detroit's defense a little bit off schedule and guessing that's how they could win the football game. I don't see that happening. I like Detroit by 17 points. So the last game, Buffalo and Kansas City, Chris. I'm interested to see how you view this game with Josh Allen coming in against Patrick Mahomes, and what do you think the outcome will be, and what are the factors in each team winning or losing this game, Kansas City and Buffalo?
yeah. Well, you can throw the weather out in this one because it doesn't matter. We've talked about the weather and some of the other ones. These two teams play in cold weather. This is a great matchup, and honestly, I'm torn on it. I've seen some games with Mahomes. Mahomes has made some bad mistakes, but then when he's on, he's on. Josh Allen plays very well. They've got the home field advantage. Again, that's another place that's going to be off the charts tonight or tomorrow. Uh, Lee, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. if you jam out to your Taylor Swift stuff tomorrow, I'm gonna pick the Chiefs. I'm picking the Chiefs in an upset. I think Kelsey's going to have a good game. I think Mahomes has something to prove, and I'm calling the upset. I think the last game they moved the ball well. They really took care of themselves in that last game, and I can see them coming in. They're no stranger to Buffalo. You know, this is a matchup. These guys they don't like each other. I think Allen will play well. Again, it's about getting pressure on them, on both of them. Really, you make Mahomes can pull out some miracles, but again, if you put the pressure on either of them, it's going to be interesting to see how they react to that pressure. But I agree with you. What you said in every other game is you got to get the running game going and get that defense on its heels a little bit, get them guessing. And if you give either one of those quarterbacks time, they're going to find somebody open. I think Kelsey's going to have a good game, and again, the cold doesn't matter. But I think Mahomes and Kelsey will see that a lot. They'll move the ball down the field, and they'll come away with the upset.
Yeah. It's going to be. You hit it, Chris, about the familiarity between the two teams. I think that's not going to be an issue. I don't think the weather is going to be a factor at all. To your great point, I think both are cold weather teams. Both play well in the cold. From a Buffalo's perspective, Buffalo running the ball with the running back, and of course Josh Allen's runs are going to be a vital part of what they do. I don't necessarily think throwing the football, like I said. Josh Allen has been great over the last month, but certainly he can get the ball out. And with Diggs out there, Diggs is a phenomenal receiver. But they're going to have to, you hit it, run the football. Run the football, run it with James Cook, run it with Josh Allen, and that's how they control it. Now, vice versa, the defense of Kansas City stopping the run. They've been, big Chris Jones in there controlling that middle, and they've done a good job in the playoffs, and they did a good job last week in limiting Miami to running the football, which I thought Miami could get some yards outside, but they totally shut down Miami's running game. So that, to your point, the key to it is who controls the line of scrimmage in this game. Mahomes going to be Mahomes. He's going to make plays. He's going to throw the ball down the field. Kelsey, I think Buffalo will try to take Kelsey away because, as we know, all season long, Kansas City's receivers has had issues with drops. So can Rice step back up to what he did towards the end of the season? He's a rookie. This is a big, big game. And can he continue to catch the ball down the field for Patrick Mahomes? I like the Kansas City Chiefs as well as you, Chris, for the upset in Buffalo. I think they have enough, and I think Mahomes will make enough plays to win this game. A very, very close game. I think this will be a 3-point win by the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes leading Kansas City down the field, a fourth quarter to a game-winning field goal in Buffalo. But the line of scrimmage is what's going to determine this game. And if Buffalo can run the football and keep Kansas City's defense off par and guessing, because play action is going to be Buffalo's best friend in this game, and Kansas City just needs to protect Mahomes. And if Kelsey is a big factor in this game, Kansas City wins going away. But I like it as a 3-point victory by the Chiefs late for them to advance to play Baltimore in the NFC Championship. AFC Championship. Anything else you want to say on that, Chris, or about that?
I mean,
we both have Kansas City going in and pulling the upset.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about it before the show, so
we did not collaborate.
I agree with you.
Yep. Chris,
if Kelsey catches those balls,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you're right about Kelsey. If he can catch those balls, each short passes, get some yards after the catch, they're good. If he's dropping them, then it's going to be a different game. But you nailed it on the head there.
I think Buffalo will try to take away Kelsey, but again, it's about the other receivers. Shaquille O'Neal always talks about the others. It's about the other receivers catching the ball and moving the sticks that'll make Buffalo's defense have to adjust, and then giving Kelsey more room to operate. And then Pacheco. Pacheco is a factor there. I love his running style, the physical nature of it. So Kansas City will get him going. So I like Kansas City. Jim Harbaugh recently made a comment. He thinks that my college football players should unionize, Chris. What are your thoughts about that? How do you think that would affect the landscape of college football going forward? And if do you think that is a good idea for college athletes, especially in the major sports of football and basketball, to unionize?
Lee, I got a lot of thoughts on this. I'm bringing my legal background in here. I used to work in the law for years before I got into education and athletics. First off, the NCAA tries to keep everything for them. And that's one reason I can see why a lot of these things are put out there. You had, I believe it was 2021, the Northwestern players had filed suit. Department of Labor had kind of said, no, we're not going to rule on that. It even went Supreme Court. Justice Kavanaugh, he didn't leave the door closed for unions. He didn't say he supported them. But one of the things you got to think about when you're unionizing, that means you're an employee of the school. You're entitled to the benefits. You're entitled to a pension. So there are a lot of things to look at. Now, on the flip side, you look at, okay, wait a minute. All this money's coming in. They're representing the school. They're generating a lot of this money. That's where the NILs come in a little bit. I think it's very complicated to unionize right now. It would go to the courts, again, back to the Supreme Court. There's just a lot to think about when it comes, because they will be employees. Now, Lee, you and I know we've hired people many times over the years. We work in at-will states. Do they become at-will employees? I know they're unionized now. There's so much out there. It's very complicated. But lately, there's been some momentum going with a memo that's come out as well from a couple of years ago, ruling that, hey, these student athletes are entitled to be employees, especially at the private colleges. And that's one of the big things that's come out. And, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be an ongoing thing, especially we'll be talking about the portal and NILs in a minute. But the courts are going to get involved big time, and it will go to the Supreme Court again, and they're going to have to figure out how they're going to rule on it. But I know some, like the labor relations, they didn't want to touch it at one point. They didn't deny it. They just didn't want to say, hey, we're not going to give our opinion on it. So to be honest, I don't know, because it to me, it's a very complicated thing for them to be employees of the school and get the benefits and all that stuff, like how it would work.
Yeah. So with all the legislation that have come out across all states regarding name, image, and likeness, and you're right, we'll get into that in just a minute. The attitude and the fever for unionization for college athletes is can't be it's at its all-time high, and I think it would be a great thing for college athletes, because with all the money that's going to be generated from the college football playoffs and all the networks, I mean, these networks are talking about, $5 to $10 billion to just advertise the college playoffs over a 10-year period, things, astronomical numbers. It would behoove the players to unionize. They can talk about what the payment would be, benefits, short-term and long-term. What does a scholarship really mean? And then, for a number of years, Chris, I've been a proponent of college athletes, especially in the major sports, being employees of the college. I think if you paid, there's 85 players on scholarship, on college football Division I Power 5 rosters, and you gave them, if you would have gave them $50,000, something I proposed a few years back, it would only equate to about $5 million of that athletic budget. Now you have to throw in benefits in there as well, but they're already covered for injury during the season anyway. So that's only $5 million part of that athletic budget, a very small portion. If the NCAA and schools had done this in the past, you wouldn't have NIL out of control. You would have students leaving via the portal, but you wouldn't have the mass exodus of the portal and players leaving because they can get a bigger bag at these other schools. So I think the time is right for unionization of college athletes. I think it's, I think Congress and the National Labor Board were supported because of all of the legislation that has occurred throughout the country. And I think that over the next couple of years, I think that's the route that they're going to go, because you see the push by the NCAA now for Congress to legislate all of the NIL. And with all of the different states doing their things and setting up all these NIL rules, and there's no one NIL legislation out there, you're going to continue to see the NCAA to push for Congress to get involved. Well, that also leads to Congress saying this, and I've heard some of the senators say this already: they should be employees of the college. So those things are going to come into play. And I think Harbaugh is onto something when he believes those athletes all across, especially the Power 5 conferences, because that's what, let's be realistic, that's where the money is, right? They should look out for their best interests and unionize so they can be at the table when all of this money starts to come in for the college football playoffs that's about to be, that's going to blow up all of this revenue that all of these colleges are going to get. So I think it's right for the time, and I think that college athletes will be smart to take this on right now and start developing the parameters of what a union would look like. Chris, speaking of transfers, the University of Alabama has had mass exodus ever since Kalen DeBoer has been hired. I think over the last couple of weeks, 13 players. Now, when a new coach is hired, the players get 30 days to enter the portal. So the Alabama current team, they got 30 days to enter the portal. They hired Kalen DeBoer, and now 13, several starters have transferred away from Alabama. What does that mean, Chris? And where do you think it goes for Kalen DeBoer as the head coach with these players starting to leave the program as they're doing?
We talked last week about DeBoer, walking into that situation. I think Phoenix may have said he's already on the hot seat, from the second he walked in there. Number one, you're right. With a coaching change, the portal's there, you can leave. But you're right. They've got some good players leaving. If you look, go on the tracker. They're declaring it January 13th. On the 15th, they've already signed with either Texas, Ohio State.
Absolutely.
They're going to big name schools. I think a lot of these guys, Saban was a legend. Saban got out of it. We all talked about it. He didn't like the way the landscape was now with the portal NILs. I think a lot of these guys went there to play for Saban. DeBoer, they don't know. I mean, some will give him a chance, but I think it's because it's Alabama that, these great players, this great historic program has people jumping ship. I think it's tough. Saban was there. Not a lot, people either liked Saban or didn't like Saban, but his players went there for a reason. They went there to play for him and to try to get to the pros. And again, to make some money in the NIL as well. I think it spells some very strong difficulty for the new coach. And I think he's got to go and replace these guys. And that's going to be tough too, because they're going to see, if I'm a recruit, I'm saying, man, all these guys are jumping ship. What in the world? And these aren't just guys that, I didn't get a lot of playing time. These are guys that help take them to the playoffs. So I think it's really going to be hard for him to replace them. And like I said, the fact that they're getting picked up quick in 2 days by big schools, that says a lot.
Yeah. When you go and you look at the history of Alabama and you take out Bear Bryant, and, Gene Stallings did win a national championship at Alabama, and you take out Nick Saban, go back and look at the success of the coaches that have coached at Alabama over the last, 20 years, and exclude Bear Bryant when he coached. Name recognition matters, Chris. Name recognition matters. Now, Kalen DeBoer is a very good coach. He is a very good coach. But these kids, to your point, went to play for the institution that was Nick Saban and not necessarily the institution that Alabama. They're going to play for what Nick Saban has built at Alabama and the coach Nick Saban. because he has a track record of getting these players to the NFL. And that's the difficulty that Kalen DeBoer walked into. Not only are current players leaving via the portal, but you have decommitments from high school players that have committed to Alabama. And so that's bleeding from within and bleeding on the outside as well. And that matters. And then also, I've talked about this many times. When Marv is on next week, he and I'll have a good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we'll have our Alabama guy on next
conversation
week.
about this. But there was always thought, and my man Marv, that NIL was going to get people flocking to Alabama, but NIL gets people flocking to the schools that have the money. Okay. And when you look at the Texas schools and you look at how Missouri, their collective is doing, and Florida State's collective is just off the chain. That's why you get all these players transferring to Florida State. The schools with the money are getting these players. And I think personally, and I didn't talk to Nick about this, but the writing was on the wall with NIL with Nick Saban, because he needed to ask for more money from these collectives to keep these players and continue to get these players. While other schools like Texas A&M, unlimited budget. The University of Texas, unlimited budget. Oregon, unlimited budget. These are the schools that are getting these players. Florida State, unlimited budget. These are the schools. And so a couple of things are working against Kalen DeBoer right now. The collective needs to raise more money. I think Nick Saban asked for more money as early as last year and even this year. And the fact that the name recognition of Caleb DeBoer, where it may carry weight out west where he's coached, but in the Southeast and the South, that name doesn't carry the weight. And you see these players leaving, and you see these players and other coaches at other institutions taking advantage of that, Chris, with these players. Because to your point, these kids are committing very quickly to these other schools. Now they have a window of 30 days, so they're going to commit quickly. But they've already had these relationships with these other schools. And now that Saban is gone, you see the mass exodus. So that's what's occurring, in my opinion, at Alabama. And so he's going to have to get some Band-Aids and stop the bleeding very quickly, because this could get out of hand, and we'll see where his recruiting goes. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I say you made a point about the commitments, but you also had one early enrollee for January who's already hit the portal. He's gone. One of their top recruits coming in for spring ball. Gone. You're right. You mentioned Florida State. I looked at the tracker earlier. I can't remember which player it was, but boom, he's at Florida State now. I mean, you're right, with the unlimited budgets. And you're right. They already know these coaches. They've been recruited by them. All it took was a phone call. Boom, I'm there. So it's a great point on that.
Yeah, name recognition matters, especially in the South. And Nick Saban was an institution. If Coach Saban is calling to come into your house, you're gonna take that call and you're gonna invite him into your house. Name recognition matters in the South, right? And Kalen DeBoer, like I said, he's a very good coach. He has a track record of success. But we've seen a lot of coaches with track records of success fail at the University of Alabama. Yeah. And so that doesn't matter more than the name recognition and then these collectives and NIL. So more to come. Like I said, next week we'll get the Hall of Famer Marvin Owens to comment on that. I can't wait to hear his take on that. But Chris, I think we're onto something, that these are the factors that's driving that mass exodus. So finally, Chris, I want to talk in general. Our last topic today is, what should the NCAA do with NIL and the transfer portal? Is it something that they're just going to just throw their hands up and say, hey, we can't affect this? Or what, in your opinion, what should happen with NIL and the transfer portal?
On the NIL side, honestly, being a college administrator, I'm not at that level up there, but I don't know. Like, I've been reading a lot about it. NCAA. One thing that bothers me about the NCAA is they want total control of everything, and so I think they want to control. So you talked about going to Congress, wanting them to relegate a lot of things. I don't know. I mean, I think some of these colleges right now are, like you said, the unlimited budgets. They're taking advantage of what they have out there. Do you put it on an even playing field? To be honest with you, I mean, if I'm a recruit, I want to go where I can make the most money. Right in today's world, we talked to Phoenix last week how different it, or 2 weeks ago, how different it was with the loyalty. I'm honestly, I don't have an opinion at this moment on what they should do because I'm not sure what they can do without, again, getting the government. I mean, it's going to be a whole process. But at this point, it's a competition out there. Now, with the transfer portal, one thing that's really driven me crazy is there's no problem to me with going to another school. Coaches jump all the time, take their big contracts wherever they want to go, whenever they want to go. And I think players have the right to do that. The one thing that drives me crazy, I think we talked about this last week, is when every year they're at a different school. And I know you're trying to find, in your work life, you may be somewhere just not working out. But I think that's one of the things that's hard to get that loyalty. It makes it difficult for the program to really grow. Like you get a quarterback in and boom, like Virginia had a quarterback. I'm a Virginia fan too. This year he's the quarterback at NC State. You had gosh, I can't remember his name, but the thing is, there's a lot that just bounce. And I think that's something has to be done to prevent just the constant turnover every year of going to schools. I know the NCAA is trying to put in some different rules and with eligibility or having to sit out if you do it a certain amount of times, sit out a year. But I think there's got to be a little bit more, really get tight on that and make those rules where, one time, great. Second time, you may have to sit out a year because that was the old thing, right, Lee? When you transferred, you had to sit out a year normally unless you had some special circumstance. I just think it's getting a little out of control with everybody bouncing around. Now, what I do like, though, is where some of these, especially in basketball, some of these smaller school guys that are really good come up to the D1 level and are great. Like I'm again Virginia basketball fan. Got a guy this year came from a smaller school. He's having a great year at UVA. Those are great opportunities for those kids. I won't keep talking about it, but just stop with the bouncing around every year.
Yeah,
that's what's got to stop.
Yeah, I see, Chris. I don't mind it. Look, if I'm a regular student, if I'm a student that goes to college, I can go to any college I want to, whenever I want to. I can check out. I can leave that college and go any place I want to. Why can't an athlete do it? And so for me, the transfer portal is, if a kid wants to leave and it's not working, we don't know what these people tell these kids when they come into their living room. You're going to be the star quarterback. Of course you're going to play as a freshman. Of course you're going to get reps. We're going to get you to the NFL. These are the things. So we don't know what the coaches sell, what dream they sell to these student athletes when they come into their living rooms and everything is fine and hunky-dory and everything is great. We don't know that. So an athlete that has been told this, that, or the other that didn't materialize for whatever reason should have the opportunity to leave. Where I think the issue is with the transfer portal is, Chris, kids transfer during the season. And that has to change. Kids cannot, the window for transfer portal should open up after the season is over, after the national championship game is completed. And that way, even playing field, everybody can if the kid decides to leave, they can leave at this, right after the title game, and everybody's on an even playing field to re-recruit these kids. Right now, the window opened in early December. No bowl games have been played. You got kids sitting out bowl games. You got kids transferring from the team or the week before the bowl game. That makes college football looks bad. So the portal, they have to have some redefine the dates of when people can transfer. But outside of that, I don't think there should be any limitation. I don't think that you should say you have to sit out. Why? All that's doing is, again, the NCAA trying to protect the schools from themselves, right? And so, no, if a kid wants to transfer, as long as when the season starts, they can't transfer till after that college national championship game is over, I'm fine with that, because I think, we are a capitalistic free enterprise country, and every other student can transfer. Why can't the football athlete transfer? And again, we to me, sometimes it seems like we always put parameters on these young 18 and 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids, whereas it's the adults in the room that are uh, giving them extra money, that are coming into their living rooms and lying to them, that are promising things that they know they can't deliver. And then we want to wrap that up and say, okay, we got to put all these limitations on them because of the lies we told. And now the kid's saying, you lied to me, I'm leaving. No, I just think the portal is what it is. If a kid wants to leave, let them leave. However, the dates and times should be clearly defined, and I don't think a team should be penalized by kids leaving right before bowl games or right before the playoff game. It has to be specifically after it. NIL, I love NIL. I've always thought that compensation to the players should have been done. Again, if they'd have took my model years ago and paid those players, we wouldn't have the robust amount of money that's been given out. But look, if a player can get this, and let me clarify something to the audience. It's not like the school is giving these players this money. And let's clear that up. The schools have collectives that are outside of the school that are helping them negotiate their name, image, and likeness deals. So if Gatorade wants to pay Shedeur Sanders, $500,000 for doing a Gatorade commercial, the collectives are helping them broker these deals and other local deals where they go in, sign autographs, or do whatever. So a kid that is playing on the field that has that notoriety, a Caleb Williams or Shedeur Sanders, just went to Paris, Chris, to be on the runway as a model. These things, if they can do that off of their name, image, and likeness, why not? Kids that are playing tennis can do it. Kids that are playing hockey can. All of these other sports, they can use their name, image, and likeness and get paid. But the football players and basketball players can't. No, that's unfair. So I think name, image, and likeness is a great thing. But what I also think is, if you want to help the colleges, then there may be some tiers that you can put into it to regulate that. I mean, look. I'm a proponent of free enterprise, but some of the smaller schools will get left out, and some of the smaller schools in some states will get left out. Is that the individual players' responsibility? No. They need to be able to, when the old days, if you went into USC's library and when Reggie Bush won the Heisman and you bought that number 5 jersey, he never got a cent off of it. How unfair is that? That is totally unfair. So put in some parameters that maybe help the smaller schools, but you should not limit a player's right to use their own name, image, and likeness to earn money for themselves and their family. Think about all the money and all the time that these parents spend taking their kids to practice, going on the AAU circuit, taking them to camp. Nobody factors that into what the family pays for these kids to get to a level where they can go to college and be a major college player. So the family deserves to reap a benefit off of their kid's name as well. And so I'm glad that they can do that. But I know there's going to be more to come in the coming weeks, Chris. Any final thoughts on NIL and transfer portal?
No, I will say the one thing, like I said, a lot of schools are taking advantage of the rules that are out there right now. And one of the things I do like, you talked about being a capitalistic society, it does give the players an opportunity to go out and promote themselves. I've told the story before. The old Oklahoma University punter, Michael Turk, went to a car dealership, got a brand new Mustang for the entire year. He turned it in when he graduated, but he was able to walk in, use his image, who he was. He had a YouTube channel, and they were able to get it. I like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think you make a great point. Me being a small college guy, that's where they get hurt, but they still have opportunities too. I told you at one school I was at, all the athletes got free Bojangles. Again, that's not huge, but there are ways for that to work. It'll be interesting where it goes, but and I mean, thinking on the transfer portal too. I understand what you're saying. Students can go. You can go. I think I'm talking as a fan. You hate to see
Yeah,
the people
absolutely,
leaving,
absolutely.
leaving your team, but you do make a good point there because you're right. Nothing's holding you at a school. Heck, I went to like 4 schools before I graduated. You're right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a good point on that. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. It's a great conversation to have, and I'm sure it's one. I love to get Marvin Phoenix involved in it, being former D1 athletes too, and see what they got to say.
Yeah, yeah, just help the smaller schools in the lower divisions, Chris, be able to keep and do something for them. But these Power Five schools have the money, man.
Oh yeah.
Alabama's athletic budget last year, 130 million, just from athletics, just from foot. They're making money heads over feet, and it's disingenuous to say that these kids are not a part of the finances of the athletic department that's paying for all of the other sports, and they can't be a part and have a financial a commitment in all the money that's being raised. That's just not right. And whereas it may be a little bit out of control right now, but the bottom line is you should have taken care of these players already. And now that the states realize that, these kids have a right to use their name, image, and likeness. Now the NCAA is all up in arms. The NCAA needs to focus on the lower level schools and define a system with the portal that keeps everybody on even playing field. But I don't think name, image, and likeness is that cat's going to be back, or that genie's going to be put back in the bottle. I think it's here to stay. Hey guys, we've come to the end of
Yeah.
the show today. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Please, we need you. Next week, we're going to have a more interactive show. We're going to have callers from the audience. We want to take some of your social media questions. Guys, we're going to be interactive. This is how we do it. For my co-host, the sports information director at Regent University, Mr. Chris Sawyer, I'm Lee Jones. This is After the Buzzers. We'll see you next week. Thank you.